the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Victor, would you please say the prayer?
Father God, we come before you tonight, Lord, and we thank you for this beautiful day. We ask for your guidance today, for your wisdom as a counsel, Lord, to do the right thing and make the right decisions. Let us be attentive to your voice. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Aaron, roll call.
Councilor Johnson?
Here.
Councilor Lorenz? Here. Councilor Segala?
Here.
Councilor Ellifler? Here. Mayor Becker?
Here.
Quorum declared.
Approval of consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, a couple of modifications to the agenda first, please.
Oh, sorry. Modifications to the agenda.
Yeah, under item M, receive and approve financial reports. That'll actually be at the next meeting. And then we'd like to add under item J, resolutions, resolution 14-2018, amending the personnel rules and regulations manual.
I move we approve the consent agenda as amended.
I second that.
Moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda as amended. Any more discussion? Aaron?
Councilor Lorenz?
Aye.
Councilor Ellifler?
Aye.
Councilor Johnson?
Aye.
Councilor Segala?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Now the approval of consent agenda.
No, we just did.
Well, that was modifications to the agenda.
Well, was the agenda as amended.
So minutes from the regular meeting and approval of accounts payable. You guys have time to look at it?
Yes. I did.
So then a motion would be in place.
I move to approve the consent agenda, the minutes from October 4th, 2018, and the approval, review and approval of accounts payable.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the approval of consent agenda, the minutes regular meeting October 4th, 2018, and review and approval of accounts payable. Is there any more discussion? Aaron?
Councilor Johnson?
Aye.
Councilor Ellifler?
Aye.
Councilor Segala?
Aye.
Councilor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Citizen comments and special presentations. The ones that are on for us, you limit them to 3?
Because of scheduled appearance, Mr. Mayor, they can take a little bit longer.
Okay, very good. I wanted to just clarify that. So we have scheduled people to speak, and then we will have citizens' comments. And citizens' comments, if you are not on the agenda, you have 3 minutes. Okay? So URGED, Marty and Bonnie, welcome this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. If we're going over 3, how far? 5?
You're good, you just talk.
I can ramble forever. And then you'll really be sorry you said that. Upper Rio Grande Economic Development started as Upper Rio Grande Economic Development Council in 2004. 10 years later, they decided to switch over to having a paid professional position in 2014. The primary income is coming from Rio Grande County, Monte Vista, Del Norte, South Fork, Rural Electric Co-op, and the Tourism Board, and that represents about 83% of the budget. Starting into economic development over here, started, at least for us, we had moved to Del Norte, and they were struggling with restaurants like all the towns do to keep people there, and They just keep going out. We were up in Crete one weekend, and I heard some people laughing and saying that, well, if you want to get rid of your life savings, open a restaurant in Del Norte. I was like, you know, that's just not really where you wanted to be. And so we decided we needed to get involved in this and start helping back at that point. Is what we realized, okay, if we want a restaurant to survive, we're going to need customers, we're going to need a workforce, and we're going to need customer service. And we've got to start there, because you can open up, but without the customers, it's not going to fly. So that got us going. I sit on the workforce board for South Central Colorado to try and have influence there and to help in this direction. As we've gone forward, our 2018 to 2020 three-year plan, which is included in the folder you've got, and you can read that later if you're really bored and need to get some sleep, is directed a lot towards workforce and trying to connect our schools as a lead-in to the workers that we need in our businesses, and to connect them up. It's just a direction that we know we have to take. It needs to be pursued. We help with the healthcare sectors, which is valley-wide, and they're trying to organize a way for. There's a HOSA chapter at Centauri, and there's another one. Alamosa just started one. Basically, they're teaching the high school kids about healthcare jobs. The kids at Centauri are all qualified at this point to take vital signs for EMS. They're just starting them in there so that when they come out of high school, they're already thinking in terms of what are the jobs that are available, and that's all being organized by the hospitals. Are saying, these are our jobs, this is what your requirements are to get them, because you may not need a BA, maybe you need a 6-month certificate from TSJC, maybe you need a 9-month certificate, but to let them know what it's going to take to have a job professionally and what that job pays. And just try and start the kids earlier so that they aren't thinking about that after graduation, they're actually thinking about it before. And so we're trying to, head in that direction on those things. We worked also with workforce. We had a meeting here. Carla Shriver set it up, Commissioner, this is a while back, with businesses from Monte Vista, and only one of them was in Monte Vista, but they are your businesses. They're on 285 going out, and sat down with TSJC and those people and said, what's holding you back? What are your problems? What are the things that you face that don't work for you with your workforce? And it was about a 4-hour meeting down at the Chamber building. And it was pretty enlightening to hear them. They talked honestly. We had, diesel repair, tractor repair, to keep industrial, to keep the machinery running in this area. These are people who work with their hands. All the way to Janelle came down from Center and just talked about the challenges that they face in their production plant. And it was good, and it gave us a lot of direction, and TSJC took it to try and come up with some ideas on, okay, what do we need to start teaching? What do we need to change? What things do we need to do? And part of that has spawned an interest on their part to have a school over here in Monte Vista that would be diesel mechanics, that would be welding, things that are more hands-on, more industrial. And we've been working with them for a couple of years trying to find the right building to allow that to happen. And most of the time the problem is money, if you can imagine that. In other words, can find the building, but the remodel that it'll take for them to provide the education and to provide the environment that the students expect for their tuition is usually beyond their means. But we keep working at it, keep looking at it. We've been working with Dr. Simone. Now on January 1st, she's done. And they'll either have a new interim president or a new president, and we'll start up again with them and try and at least keep that concept alive until eventually we can get it to happen. But the idea was to extend their campus over to Monte Vista. And so it will be good no matter what for this whole side of the valley if we can get them out here. And if we can help train our young people, our youth, to be qualified for those positions, to be able to walk right in and participate. We've held 4 economic summits. The first one was held, it was Rio Grande County only. And it was held here in this room, and that was spawned by the City Council of Monte Vista asked us to do something and try and put something like that together, and it was very successful. We packed this room, and then from that we realized we needed to do another one, and that one was held at Valley 3, and it was held down there because we knew we needed to invite Alamosa County, City of Alamosa, ASU, and TSJC. In other words, expand this out because of the reception that it had, the results from it. And then 3 and 4 since then have been held at ASU and have been valley-wide with the entire valley. And we get pretty much representation from almost every municipality and county in the valley. There'll be somebody in the room, and sometimes several people. And we're trying to bring in speakers that are not local, but will come in with new ideas, with knowledge that we just don't have access to on a regular basis. To that end, we also hold an annual dinner that for the first year we had a speaker in, talk about economic development. The second year we had a doctor from CSU who had just done a water study for the valley and set up a software system that could help people figure out exactly what they're using, what the impacts are going to be, what they're going to need based on acreage, things like that. The third year we brought in a company that deals just with towns in the mountain areas in the west of the United States, number of small towns, and they talked about placemaking, things you can do in your town to make your town more desirable, to make it more appealing to tourists going through, to the people that live there, to just provide them with stuff. And then last year we brought in the folks that are going to develop the Frontier Drive-In up north here, and had them explain what their plans were, because everybody knew something was going on but didn't know what. And they're developers out of Denver and LA, and they've got some pretty bold plans for it, and they are consciously want to be in the middle of agriculture area, and so it'll be pretty interesting. And they are also well-heeled enough they can do that. They can pretty much put together whatever they want, but they're going to be an asset to us. And as long as nobody from Center is listening, they considered Center their town, and we convinced them that it's Del Norton, Monte Vista. It's this side is what their town is. But that's our job. New businesses, when Proximity wanted to come down here, we helped with land use and zoning at the county, at all the meetings, and spoke with them, and pretty much lobbied the commissioners through the whole process, because there was some opposition to them being here. And my goodness, that's a big business, and we need that sort of thing to come here and succeed. Frontier Drive-In, we've done the same thing for them, where we meet with land use and zoning at the county and try and make sure that there aren't any roadblocks that are going to pop up at a meeting and be a problem to prevent this kind of development, this kind of industry from coming here. Monte Vista Clinic, as part of trying to be involved in this stuff, I was on the board of directors for the hospital, and we looked at several locations in town, and we looked at building the BLMs in, some of the others that were available at that time, and decided that we really wanted to put the clinic in downtown, and because that would help the downtown area, that from a business standpoint and for the community, it would make the most sense to put it there. And so that's the kind of stuff we do. We work with Alamosa County Economic Development, ASED, have been working on the drones for several years. Again, it's a very slow moving. They got the COA, the COA, Certificate of Authority about 3 years ago, which means that they can test them in the air, in the skies over the valley. That was issued by the FAA. Of the 27 items that a drone has to be able to check off on before it will be touched by the government or licensed or anything else, 26 of those things can be tested in the valley. The only thing we don't have is a large body of water. And so we are a pretty desirable place. To that end, this summer we had Virginia Tech, University of Virginia, Oklahoma State, University of Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kentucky, Boulder, all out at Leach Field. We had teams of up to a dozen students that are engineering students designing these things, and they were testing them out there. They spent a week in Boulder at a conference and then came down here and spent a week flying in the valley. And so slowly we're going to get that industry down here. Out of that, there is one company that has contacted ACID and would like to maybe have a physical presence in the valley year-round. And so that's a start, because we may not be able to design drones here but we've got people who can have the skills to fix them, that when something doesn't work, get it changed, get it made so it does work, who can work with plastics, who can work with, visual, photographic. I mean, it's pretty amazing the stuff they do. They had one that they were testing out there that they could bring it down over a cattle herd, and they could tell you what the weight of each of the cattle was, so you knew whether it was time to take them to slaughter or if it was going to be in 2 weeks or whatever. They could get that information and hand it to the farmer. And if they're testing in the valley, nobody in the valley is ever going to pay for that kind of help, because we're providing them something to test with. And so we'd really like to see them here. But these are long, ongoing projects. But we work on that. We testified at the EAS, to the Essential Air Service, to maintain commercial service into the valley. We go and help Alamosa County, and because we don't want to lose that commercial service. We don't want to be private planes only. We at least want people to be able to come in and out of the valley reasonably easy. Worked on the water rules and regs, attended all the meetings that were held here for a couple of years, for the purpose that a lot of our people couldn't go to them from our towns, from the county, and even our attorneys, and somebody needed to be there to keep track of it, to fill in our municipal attorneys to make sure that they know what's going on and can give the correct advice to the boards and to the councils and keep that going. It was the same thing with San Luis Valley, had that conservation plan. That was a 9-year project done by Division of Fish and Wildlife Federal, was running it. And the reason that the valley spent that much time working on it was to get the EPA federal to skip over the valley, to be able to come up with a way we could show them that we can handle all the willow flycatchers and yellow-billed cuckoos that would ever be in this area. We've already got it. We don't need their supervision. We have more habitat for them than is there, and meet every single line of the EPA's federal requirements. And got it done, got it passed. And again, took that information to the attorneys so that, because it had to be signed by South Fork, Del Norte, Monte Vista, Alamosa. And so I handled the 3 towns over here to make sure that the attorneys knew all the stuff. It was about a 150-page document that had been done, and the things they needed to look at. And to get that signed, and so it got signed, the EPA took care of it. And we have a lot more latitude than the rest of the country with regards to, if you've got willows in your irrigation ditch, you can get rid of them. In other words, you can go out there and do that without having to get an Army Corps of Engineers 404 permit just to fix a small area. And we just went through that in Del Norte, getting a 404 permit to work on the river, and it took us 2 years. And so you don't want to do that just to trim some stuff. But that's in place. We've got a website. If you want to go to it, it's urg-ed.com. We handle press releases. We even sent out a press release on what you're doing here with Ron Douglas, sent it to the Front Range, and also got it posted on the Economic Development Council of Colorado webpage so that all the economic developers in the state will get a chance to see what you guys are experimenting or starting here, and they'll be alerted that they should watch and see how it turns out, because I think it's pretty exciting. We've worked on the Valley brand to raise the profile of the Valley. It was a brand, and that was a couple of years to get that through. It was showing to all the towns to the ideas, and then they voted. We came up with the one, and now we're starting to promote it to try and everybody can use it. There's no charge. But get it on letterheads, get it on packaging things, so that the Valley will have an identity outside the Valley, to where people can see that and go, oh, that's from the San Luis Valley, rather than, I don't know where that town is. Because right now we all just advertise as individuals. We work with the tourism board on a regular basis, monthly. And as we get press, newspaper, print, digital, or videos that have been generated by stuff that's been worked on down here, we see to it that the tourism board knows, so that they aren't kind of in a bubble over there, that they understand what things are getting press locally, regionally, and nationally for the Valley. And that way maybe they think in their minds that we should help with these directions. Anyway, that's kind of what we do. Any questions?
What do you do in your free time?
Sleep. Anybody?
Actually, I'm overwhelmed with everything you got
Well,
going
there's-
on. We don't get to talk about that much, and I appreciate you.
Well, there's a lot of things, but a lot of them are valley-wide or whatever, and we really believe that anything we bring into the valley, we're all going to benefit from it, because, I mean, we know that our neighbors will travel across the valley for a good job. And so it's not like this only benefits a small area. We're all stuck in this together, and if we work on it together, I think we're going to succeed.
One thing I just want you to clarify.
Sure.
So, with Ron Douglas, and he's here, that Rio Grande development covers all of Rio Grande County.
Correct.
So you guys do not just, if something comes to line up in Monte Vista, then
Yeah.
you're gonna help them do that. But
Yeah.
if it's South Fork,
Yeah, I did not list anything here from Del Norte, from South Fork, and we also even help Cree in Mineral County, because they're kind of, you know, a stepchild, they're out there on the edge. And so we work with them too, and we're helping South Fork with, they're trying to create a municipal water system, because right now their town has 60 water systems, and none of them are legal. And they're about to face some legal problems if they don't start doing this, and so we're working with them on that. The railroad, the Denver Rio Grande, between Cree and South Fork, Don Shank is pretty much out of that. He wants to sell it, and both towns would like to buy it and make it into a ATV route that people could come to one town and ATV to the next, move back and forth on it, taking advantage of the right-of-way. And so that's involved things as simple as explaining to them that at the federal level, there are rails to trails and rails with trails. Rails to trails means you pull the rails and now it's a trail. Rails with trails mean that the rails stay there, and that's what they've got to do, because where that rail crosses the Wasson Ranch and the Lovell Ranch, where you are, they don't own the land under there. You pull those rails, it's back to the private landowners, and it's gone. The right-of-way doesn't exist. And so, but it all just takes help, and we help all of them that are trying to do something that we think is going to be positive for the valley.
very good. Any other questions, guys?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Marty, appreciate it, thank you for coming. Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Apker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. Turn my glasses around so I can see. I was really hoping you would limit me to 3 minutes so I could wrap this up and sit down as quickly as possible. Several months ago, City Manager Forrest came to me and said that the county had become Santa Claus and brought some money to the city of Monte Vista, and then he was becoming Santa Claus's elf, and he was bringing money to the Chamber of Commerce to let us begin to help develop a plan to promote some of the events that we have in the Monte Vista community. So he said we had $15,000 to spend, and spend it wisely. And so I sat down and developed a brief proposal and outlined the various events in the city of Monte Vista, and I think it's in your packet. You have some of that information in your packet. Outlined the events starting from the new proposal for a Mountain Film Fest here in Monte Vista coming in January of 2019, going through the Southern Rocky Mountain Ag Conference, and then I'm going to blow right through them and take you all the way down to the end of the Potato Festival. And I think before I get into the complex matrix that I wrote up, I'm going to skip to the very last page and read to you the sentence at the top of the page there. It says that we anticipate that some changes in advertising and promotion emphasis or media outlets for each event may become evident during the course of the year. And it turns out that sentence was pretty prophetic, because I no sooner had finished this document that I went online and I looked and found out that Angel Fire, New Mexico is going to have a Mountain Film Fest the weekend before the one that we were proposing for the San Luis Valley. And in the plan here, in that overly complex matrix that I have on the second page, we were putting a fair amount of funds promoting our film fest down in the Taos community, and it would seem that that would not be a wise investment if they're going to have a film fest 40 minutes away the weekend before. So those are the kinds of things that are likely to change over time. And then in addition to that, last Thursday evening, I had the first planning committee meeting with the group that's going to plan the actual event and the fundraiser and whatnot for the Mountain Film Fest in January. And we sat down and we got to talking that really the most ideal time to do the Mountain Film Fest that wouldn't be competing with a lot of other film fest events would be in the month of September here. And we started kicking around the notion of where would you hold that and whatnot, and we have some ideas, and I don't really want to divulge all of the ideas because I haven't spoken with some of the venues exactly yet. But we are very firm in actually carrying that off and getting Mountain Film Fest back with the 2019 film selections that are brought out in May with the Telluride Film Fest, and that's the organizing group that actually promotes mountain film. And so we'll have all new selection of films for the fall Mountain Film Fest. So we're going to redirect some of the resources in this plan. So that being said, then I'll have you turn your page to page 2, and after a lifetime of taking fairly complex biological concepts and making them absolutely incomprehensible to the general public, I'm attuned to making complex matrices and trying to explain things. So I start with the events over time and then the various media outlets, both print media, online media, a little bit of social media, because I'll be quite frank with you, I'm not very versed in social media, but we're getting better over time. And then radio media. We're directing almost all of the resources to communities that are surrounding the San Luis Valley. And starting with the clock, the upper Arkansas, Salida, Buena Vista, Leadville area, Pueblo area, Trinidad area, Taos, not so much Raton, but Taos down to Santa Fe and Espanola, and then Pagosa Springs, and then Gunnison Basin. Those are that's the emphasis that we're targeting to try and draw more people into the community. For the different types of events, we tried to focus the types of media that we thought were most appropriate for the type of event. So for Mountain Film and for the Crane Fest, for example, an awful lot of the advertising and promotion is going to be in the online versions, the e-versions of the various print media and through radio primarily. Things like the Southern Rocky Mountain Ag Conference, it's going to be more print media. We already have one outreach with an agricultural publication that the State Department of Agriculture puts out, and we've got a little blurb that's going in that on their electronic version, because it's accessed all across the country and at all of the various major outlets that they advertise through the state. So we've got that going on. That fortunately didn't cost us any money to do that. That came through monies available through the State Department of Agriculture. We're investing a fair amount in the newer activities or the newer events. So the Hot Rod Dirt Drags get a big chunk of money. The Thunder in the Valley get a big chunk of money. The Taste of the San Luis Valley gets a big chunk of money. The organizations and events that have had a fairly strong track record, so the Southern Rocky Mountain Ag Conference, because it's been here for so long, it's pretty well established. I don't know that we're going to attract a tremendous number of new visitors to that kind of event. The Sky High Stampede and the SLV Potato Fest, because they already have pretty substantial advertising budgets, we put less resources into those. So that's where the plan lies. I spoke with Forrest here not too many days ago, or maybe we just exchanged emails, and he mentioned to me that this money comes from Rio Grande Tourism Board, and the Tourism Board, their plans and their emphasis is that this money should not be directed at local advertising. It really needs to be directed at outside the community. I put some monies in here for local advertising, And I can give you examples like, for instance, the Home and Garden. We're probably not likely to get a whole bunch of visitors from other communities outside the San Luis Valley coming to a Home and Garden show here in the San Luis Valley when they can go to their own Home and Garden shows in their own communities. You're not going to get folks from Pueblo coming down to the San Luis Valley to learn about home and garden and home decor and that kind of stuff. So it's probably not prudent to be spending an awful lot of resources in advertising in those outside communities, but we don't want to ignore our local advertisers, the San Luis Valley, the Valley Publishing, Valley Courier, and KSLV, KYDN, whatever. So we're going to have to find other resources within the Chamber of Commerce to do more advertising and promotion with them for, for those kinds of local events. So I'll be redirecting what resources are identified in that little matrix to some of these other events in the plan. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
There's a lot of work on this matrix. That's very informative. I did notice, just a question, and I know you obviously worked through all of the best possible resources, that some of the tourism magazines around the state, some of them are out of range completely, but some of them good quality productions that are somewhat reasonable. I didn't know if you looked into that or.
I looked into several, and there's two issues there, and one is the frequency of which they're published. They're typically annual or biannual, so you pretty much have to put all of your eggs in one basket. You're advertising all of your events in one fell swoop. Either that, or you're having a whole series of ads within the publication that advertise this event over here and this event over here. You just get different mentions in it, and so it didn't seem like that was going to be the best way to really highlight the activities, and when you do that, you just sort of swamp the network up here, and you just go, okay, well, there's a whole gob of them in the San Luis Valley, and I'm not sure I'll remember when to do them. So, and the other issue was a matter of timing. Their publication deadlines, they're going to print here in November, and we just barely got this sort of figured out, and then got to sit down and actually design advertisements and stuff, and that's not really in my wheelhouse, so I'm going to have to talk to some people that are more knowledgeable about actually advertising design. So
Sure. No, actually, you're right. They're just, it's annual, biannual, even some of them are monthly, but it still is an institutional thing. But it takes a lot of repetition. So yeah, even if it is reasonable, it can get expensive over time. But it looks like you might have consider that sometime in the future.
yeah, one of the things I learned about calling around and talking to these different media outlets as for advertising, and I mentioned this to the chamber board meeting this morning, that it's kind of like going and buying a used car. The price is a little squishy. The first time you talk to them, that's a pretty hard price. And the second or third time you talk to them, the price starts to come down, or it drifts over here, or, well, if you add this, you can get this. And so these numbers are, they were my best shot at it after talking to all of the print media outlets and all of the online advertising resources. But radio was a blob. It was really hard to get my arms around that one. So, but I'm learning.
Well, again, I'll reiterate that obviously there's a tremendous amount of work put into this, and you've done a great job with that. This is very easy to just see what the whole budget covers. So, appreciate that.
I mean, I didn't completely baffle you.
No,
I failed in my mission now.
I just was curious, did you think, and it just popped in my head, the ASU Alumni Magazine, did they do advertising? Because of that, I would think it might be reasonable. I could be completely wrong.
I actually
And it goes all over the
didn't even
country.
occur to me. It didn't even occur to
And
me.
it's a monthly or a bi-monthly?
Good suggestion.
Yeah, I know. Generally Margot's here and her daughter's now the designer for that magazine.
Okay.
So that's why it came to mind.
Okay. My father was an English teacher, and after rereading this now, I found all kinds of errors that he would have read and marked this horrifically on it. So I have lots of room to improve, and I'll add that in there.
Just a thought.
Yeah. Okay.
Questions?
All right. Thank you, Council.
Thank you very
much.
Thanks again, Jerry.
So, Mr. Mayor, essentially what staff's recommendation on this, because there is that restriction. This money, we got a lump sum from the county, which is very unusual. And it's tourism related, it's got some strings attached, i.e. where it has to be distributed. Also, in talking to Jerry, there is, some of these numbers are variable. And staff's recommendation is that the council authorize us to enter into an agreement with the chamber for $16,000. So he's got 15,125 there. Some of that
Yeah.
wouldn't be qualifying, but also if there's opportunities like ASU or something else that pops up and there's some changes there, then it gives them a little bit of leeway there. And then basically what the city is obligated to do is report back to the county commissioners, you gave us this money, that's what we're gonna do with it. And then the remainder of the money, which would be about $3,200, we'll actually work on a campaign for that's for the city. We haven't really, Azrael is gonna work on that, but we'll put together something where we can get a little bit of out of alley advertising as well.
Yeah, you might mention also that we have to keep track of all of the invoices and any of the actual advertisements other than radio. The radio, they can send us the MP3 files. So, but we have to submit those so that they can be submitted to the Rio Grande Tourism so that there is accountability on this.
Where it's at, advertisement sales.
So I guess I'd request if you all want to do this, a motion
We need a motion.
and that stuff.
I would be glad to if I got that straight. What it's,
Marketing.
yeah. This is a motion to approve the expenditure of what's already been, you're talking about the money that came from the county.
Right, up to $16,000 of the county tourism funds.
Well, I would move that we approve the use of the county funds towards, what was it, economic development, tourism, for the amount of $16,000.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the $16,000 for the tourism board and advertisement in the county. Is there any other discussion? Aaron?
Counselor Lorenz.
Aye.
Counselor Segala.
Aye.
Counselor Ellsworth. Aye. Counselor Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Becker.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Very good.
I'm gonna be Colette
Okay.
tonight. So Colette couldn't make it tonight, but in your package, you actually have, I think yours is in black and white as well, two items that the Monte Vista Community Fund is going to do or are doing to benefit the Faith Hinckley Memorial or Veterans Memorial Park. One is a concert, a live Veterans Benefit concert on Sunday, November 11th at 6:30 p.m. at the high school auditorium. We still call it the high school, no, it's the Central Auditorium, thank you. And then the other is a drawing that they're going to hold for a kind of a raffle type drawing for a 43-inch LG LED flat screen TV. And all the proceeds from this go to the Faith Hinckley Park. Essentially, we had a GoPro grant that the city performed on, and then there's still things that need to be done. We have pretty much wrapped up our GoPro related work from the city. obviously we'll provide some assistance, but the rest of the fundraising is being done by the community fund. So just wanted you all know about that. We'll get that on our Facebook page and get it out as well to help them co-advertise it.
Very good.
Okay.
I'm not as eloquent as she is, but she'll forget
Did
it.
everybody catch that, all right? What's going on? So be sure and get your tickets for the big screen TV and go to the big band concert. Okay. Citizen comments. City Council welcomes your unscheduled comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Council will not take action at this same meeting. I have one ahead of you.
Oh, that's just fine.
Mrs. Morgan? Buddy? Good to see you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Appreciate your time for just a few minutes just to share about a couple of events that we do have coming up that we want to make available to the community. The first is Rocktoberfest, and that's going to be held at the Sky High Complex October 31st. And we did this is the 4th year we did it, and last year we had over 2,000 people that came through the door. And so we want to do it again this year. What Rocktoberfest is we just want to offer a safe environment for families and people to be able to come on that evening, but it's not geared just toward children. It really is geared toward the entire family. And so what we have available that evening, we have a different bunch of carnival games. We have rock walls, bucking machines. The event is pushed or promoted toward family. And so we're going to do it just a little bit different this year. And so we're going to open the doors at 6:15, and then from 6:30 to 7, we're actually going to have what we call a Fairbuster show. And so at that time, we're going to be doing a black light performance, and then we're going to be doing some really excellent puppetry, and then just a dance performance as well. At 7 o'clock, all the events will open. It is open to the public. It's totally free of charge. And so we just want to make everybody aware that you could come out. It is a safe place to bring your family and to have a good time. Every child that does walk through the door leaves with a bag of candy, and then every booth that they go to, they'll get plenty of prizes and stuff. So it's a real fun time. The second thing that I would like to just make you guys aware of, on November 10th, we will be hosting Elijah Tyndall. He's a comedian, a worldwide comedian. He's fabulous at what he does. Pirates of the Caribbean, everybody know that movie? Okay, he was the stand-in for Johnny Depp. So he looks exactly like Johnny Depp. He's very powerful at what he does. This is the 3rd year that we've had him here. He's going to be doing some stuff for us on the 9th and then on the 11th. So we thought on the 10th we would open an event up for the public to be able to come. He is really excellent at what he does. You will laugh a lot. He's a very clean comedian, but he also has a very powerful message behind what he says that offers some family values and morals and characters. Touches the young people really, really powerful. And so we just like to make those events open to the community. And if you have any questions, you can please let me know. November 10th, that will be held at the feed store, and it starts at 6:30. Again, it's totally free. You can come and you can look up Elijah Tyndall online. He does have a book out, and the thing that promotes his book, it says we all have scars, and it says we all have them. It's what we do with them that counts. And that's really what his message is about, is if you've lived any time at all, you have some scars. But it's what we do with the scars that life has given us that really makes a difference in our lives. So I think I'm probably out of time, but if you have any questions, I would love to answer.
I probably just missed it, but the date for the Rocktoberfest?
October 31st.
Yeah, of course.
It would be Halloween, Council.
Yeah. And the police department's been amazing. They volunteered their time. Like I said, we had over 2,000 people come through the doors last year, and they were awesome just to walk through. And this is the 4th year we did it, and it's been really amazing. So.
All right.
Thank you for doing that for our community.
Oh, it's so fun. Any questions?
Impressive.
Well, you got it done in 3 minutes.
I tried to talk really fast. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name.
My name is Josh Bruns. I did call in, so I did plan for 5 minutes, so I'm going to go through this as quick as I can. This is regarding Proposition 112. According to the statement from Colorado Rising, which backs Initiative 97, firefighters and first responders frequently use 1/2 mile or more as the evacuation radius when there are fires, explosions, or gas leaks, such as the emergency evacuation of a high school football game in Greeley last fall. The first responders noted that in 2017, a dozen serious fires and explosions occurred at oil and gas drilling sites, and more than 1,000 complaints filed over issues such as contaminated water and inability to sleep or work due to noxious fumes, extremely loud noise, headaches, nosebleeds, asthma, and other grave health impacts, all in 1 year. Over 1,000 complaints in this state. This is a common sense buffer zone. 2,500 feet is common sense, 1/2 mile. Reports from NASA, it's clear. These operations cause cancer, benzene, it's pretty obvious. Explosions like the one in Firestone that killed 2 people, which was from a leaky gas line that wasn't properly capped, are a palpable risk. This measure protects homes, schools, playgrounds, and water sources. This proposition is about public health and safety and about preserving the long-term quality of life in the state. 123,000 Colorado citizens signed a petition to put this measure on the ballot. The Political Issue Committee has raised $33 million in a single super PAC to fight this proposition when Colorado Rising raised less than $1 million. $33 million from one super PAC. So this touches on what I talked about last week. Advocates to defeat this bill are largely energy companies, while Colorado Rising depending on 1,000 volunteers. To combat the proposition, energy companies' war chest is $10 million as of October 1st. The Colorado School of Public Health, NASA, say that the health risks rise significantly when living quarters are within a 1/2 mile of well. So this limit is 2,500 feet, about 1/2 mile. Though we do not need scientific studies to conclude that exposure to hydrocarbons has ill health effects. Furthermore, this is a surface limit. You can horizontally drill, so it's not like it's going to limit the actual location of resources. In retaliation to Prop 12, gas industries have engendered Initiative 108, which would require government compensation for legislatively decreasing the purported value of oil companies' privately held land. It's pretty clear that you all disagreed with that. So I'm kind of going to zoom along here because I'm almost out of time, but I cannot even begin to explain the vile ideology, the disregard for human decency, when political representatives could vote against protecting the lives of children and the lives of the greater community. It's easier than you think to change the paradigm if we employ our unity and critical thought together. So that's my 3 minutes there, but I have a lot more to say. Do you guys have any questions for me? So I'm going to go ahead and urge you to vote yes on Prop 112. We need to back the people and not support moneyed interests. It'd be absurd to support moneyed interests. Thank you.
Forrest?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. This evening you found on the DS resolution number 14-2018. That's a resolution approving an amendment to Section 4 attendance and leave provisions of the City of Monte Vista's Personnel Rules and Regulations Manual pertaining to the use of personal sick and vacation hours being used in conjunction with hours worked. This actually came out of a management team meeting that we held this morning, and we've kind of been struggling with an issue in our policy of how to make sure that our employees have an opportunity to take vacation. And, you know, from a fiduciary standpoint, we cap the amount of vacation that they can accrue, that employees can accrue, at 160 hours. So from a financial standpoint, the auditors like that. Obviously, it makes sense not to have a bunch of accrued liabilities. In the past, when I first got here, we had employees that would retire or leave, and they'd be, you know, paid for 300 hours of vacation. And vacation is not designed, at least from our philosophy, to be a savings account. It's for the employee's welfare and benefit. So we've kind of been just struggling with this because historically the way we've done it is if an employee works, say, they put in for a day off. If they're working 10-hour days, they put in for a day off, and then they end up working 37 hours. So they would get, we'd backfill the time off, right? So you work 37 hours, that's 3 hours of vacation time, there's your 40. So they're not really getting the time off, they're working, and then they don't have the opportunity then to take that time off. What this amendment would do would create a policy that allows them to, say, work that 35 hours and still have their 10 hours of actual taken vacation. But those 5 hours would be paid on straight time. So it doesn't create an overtime situation for us, but it does allow them to take the vacation. And that happens with law enforcement officers, fairly common, you know. Supposed to have this day off and they get in the middle of a case and they work overtime. Or public works guys, you know, if something happens, they get called out. So, you know, we had a pretty good discussion about it this morning. We had a discussion with some legal folks over at Employers Council, which used to be Mountain States Employers Council, about one, was this advisable, two, was it legal? And they assured us that, you know, this is a very legal practice because they're not physically working. You pay overtime if somebody actually physically works more than 40 hours. So they can accrue straight time hours and still have their vacation. That's perfectly legal. And particularly understanding that we have a cap on accrual, we want the employees to have an opportunity to take that time off. So we worked on that today, and you know, actually Jenny drafted this up after, you know, she had a conversation. I always want to call them MSAC, but with Employers Council, and we talked to a couple other folks who give us advice on such things. And so I'd ask the council to consider and approve this resolution tonight. That should help us, even at this late date in the year, one, to allow some employees to, because at the end of the year, if you've got more than 160 hours, actually, at this point, you can't get those 160 hours. So people can take some time off. And then it'll work even better next year because then the department heads can plan with their employees to do this. And it really is designed to be a contingency thing, not a regular happens every pay period. But we do want to have the opportunity for our employees to, you know, use their time off rather than lose it.
And how, were the department heads okay with this?
Oh, yes. Yeah, actually, they were very much in favor of it. And, you know, basically, so Jenny and I have been kind of the pinch HR coordinator. And so we're like, yeah, we're okay with that too, but we need to make sure that we had good legal grounds to stand on for it, which we thought we did, but we have confirmed that. So, yeah, I think all the department heads that were there today, Nita's at a class. But yeah, everyone was definitely in favor of it.
Well, I've personally always been in favor of that kind of thing. You said it well. It's not a savings account. It's designed for their health and well-being. And I would certainly agree with that. Some would look at it differently, but I think that makes perfectly good sense.
And the employees?
The employees, I think, would be happy, but the backfilling creates confusion for the employees. You know, in the one sense, I mean, I've been working with HR stuff for a long time, and it's kind of like, well, hey, you got this time credited back to you, so you can still take it. But often for the employee, it's like, well, I didn't get my vacation time. Well, no, because you didn't actually take the vacation time. But then it gets into, when is that opportunity going to come? So yeah, I think the employees will find it simpler to understand, and our payroll management system, it's like press 3 buttons and it works fine.
Motion to accept this resolution.
I move we accept a resolution approving an amendment to Section 4, Attendance and Leave Provisions of the City of Monte Vista's Personnel Rules and Regulations Manual pertaining to the use of personal, sick, and vacation hours being used in conjunction with hours worked.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept resolution number 14-2018. Is there any more discussion? Aaron?
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Counselor Ellithorpe?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Do you have in your packets a copy of Ordinance 888? So I just noticed that I don't have it in my electronic packet, so since you don't have it before you, it would be, second and final reading of the ordinance. I'd recommend that the council table that this evening until the November 1st meeting, so you'll actually have it in hand. I mean, you've all read it, you've all seen it, but I think to be fair, both for the public's interest and your own, that a copy should be part of the packet.
Okay. I move to table this until the next meeting, the first meeting in November. Ordinance 888, the final reading of the Code of Ethics.
I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded to table ordinance 888, final reading of Code of Ethics. Is there any more discussion? Aaron?
Counselor Johnson?
Aye.
Counselor Ellithorpe? Aye. Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, so
Report.
that's why I stayed here.
Moving that one to the next meeting, right?
Yeah, so all the budget information. So for the public's information, on October 30th, we'll have another budget work session, 6 p.m. here at City Hall. The first reading of the draft, at this point, draft budget will be the November 1st meeting. We'll have, if necessary, a follow-up budget workshop on October 13th. Is that correct? Yes. And then second and final reading of the ordinance potentially on the
November 15th.
November 15th. Thank you. Should have written that down, but
Did pretty good for us.
all right. So, one of the things that I included in the council packet was kind of a missive on levels of code enforcement. The city has one code enforcement officer, and basically our approach to code enforcement since I've been here is kind of a two-phase thing. The first phase that is to try to get people to voluntarily address their code issues. And the voluntarily is you get a door hanger that says, hey, you have a violation, you've got weeds or junk cars or whatever, and if you have a question about that, then you can call the code officer. And generally that comes with a 15-day notice to remediate the problem. Now the municipal code doesn't require that. There's certain zoning enforcement issues that require a 30-day notice, but the general nuisance code things only require, you can write a citation right out of the box. But that has not been our approach. Our approach is more of a community policing type approach, where we hope we can get people to voluntarily comply. And then within that, so the person calls the code enforcement officer, says, yeah, I can get that cleaned up, but I can't get it done in the 15 days. Well, when can you have it done by? And generally the outside of that is 30 days. And if they're showing, if it's really bad and they're showing you concerted effort, okay, then we continue to work with them. If they ignore the 15 days, they don't contact the code enforcement officer and they don't do it, then a citation is issued. So that's the basic tenet of how we're doing code enforcement with one code enforcement officer. There is a huge backlog of code issues in the city. I make my wife crazy because when we drive through the community, I'll see something like, oh man, that's a code violation. But is it a primary code violation? Is it a direct impact upon health, safety, or life? Some code things are, some aren't. One of the things we found with our new code officer, Shane, is that he's really been trying to address the issue of dogs at large, stray dogs, and he's worked really well with the owners, or tried to work really well with the owners of those dogs. If he can, not having to take them down to the shelter and getting them back home. Sometimes he has to take them to the shelter and they have to bail their dogs out. And of late, he's been issuing some citations, for repeat offenders who are not taking care of their issues. And, the animal at large thing is a huge problem here, and you can play into that other actions, some of which are pending of people where we get complaints about maybe too many domestic animals inside their house. In a recent case, and I can't go into details because it's not in court yet, but he and the police officers were involved in getting a warrant to enter the house to discover a really bad problem. So that is time consuming. The next tier is really yards with a lot of junk and trash and weeds. And we're working on those, and right now we're assigning, every year Public Works gets some work orders this time of year when things slow down to go clean some yards that are really bad. Remove the weeds. If it's junk cars, they don't do those, but that then results in a lien. And I will tell you that we're actually looking at a policy. Problem with liens, they do go with the property, but they sit there for years, sometimes, decades sometimes, where the property doesn't change hands, and sometimes they compound them. We're cleaning them every year. So Public Works will be out doing some of that work, and we're exploring turning those over to collections instead of liens. It's better to get 80% of what's due to the city rather than waiting 10 years. So, in the kind of community aspect that the chief was talking about at your last workshop, there's also the thing about, if you got a neighbor that has a problem, there's neighbors that, maybe they have a problem because they want to. You probably need to call code enforcement, but if you know your neighbors and you can talk to them, maybe your neighbor fell down and they got a broken leg and they can't sweep their sidewalk right now. Maybe we could help them out rather than, calling the police department. I mean, it's kind of a different level of thing, but, in my neighborhood, we all we kind of know each other, at least a little group of us, and we all kind of look out for each other. The alternative, with only one code enforcement officer, is that we don't try to work with people, that we don't try to give them some leeway, that we simply say, Shane, when you find somebody that's got a code violation, you write them a citation. Now, personally, I think that's a little heavy-handed, and it's not very community-minded. It's much better, in my opinion, if you can get people to voluntarily, or give them a nudge, if you will, to get it done, rather than, filling our courtroom with people with code violations. For the bad ones, yes. I mean, there's different levels of response, like the animal issue that I mentioned, where there was no door hanger. There was a welfare check that was made that then resulted in the other actions. So the reason I brought this up this evening is I just wanted to make sure that you, the City Council, supported this more community-minded approach rather than the heavy-handed approach. I think we're all working as a community to make this a better place. And sometimes it's hard for people. But if we can help them rather than, bring them into court, it doesn't really help people much. Some people need to come to court. But a lot of people really do. I was talking to Shane today, and we're getting pretty good compliance on some of these issues of yard cleanups and stuff. Now, there's a large volume of those, so you don't see it, you can still see where there are ones, and some of those our crews will be cleaning up. But the point being is that we are getting compliance. It's really not writing citations too much for the weeds or junk or those kind of issues. had to work with some people. We've had a few people cited into court, but those are kind of extreme cases. So I guess I'm really just asking the council if you support that approach.
I do. Definitely. I know from the shelter side of things, if Shane brought in every animal that he sees or finds running or catches, we're already inundated. And I don't know where we put them all. So it works better for us to do that as well.
I would agree. I agree as well, Forrest. I think it's important, like you say, we're community minded. Let's help our neighbors out if they can help. So I'm not a fond person of the apples that have been left around either, but I have one of those trees in my yard and I take the old snow shovel out and clean it up. So.
And as we all know with those, our crew, you know, we've got some of those here at City Hall and a couple other places. And we have streets and parks guys that come and clean them like every other day, and the wind blows. Or the giant flock of birds gets in the tree and tear them up a little bit. And so, yeah, it's an annoying problem, and we all recognize that. And it's tougher for some people to deal with. People come by and want to pick the apples here, and we're like, yes, sure, be safe, but pick all that you want. And Dale, you and I were talking about there may be a way to treat some of these trees so that they don't make crab apples. So Dale's gonna do an experiment on that, and we'll see how that works.
Come on.
So anyway, hopefully if that is something that works here, we can get that word out to the public, and I think the city will probably treat our trees because they're messy, but the same thing with leaves in people's yards. I think how many trees you have, you get a lot of leaves, and then they start blowing around, and we are out running the street sweepers, and we try to pick up some of those that get in the street, and we're pretty successful at that, but you still have them on the sidewalk and on the lawn. And if you went by my house today, there's some on the sidewalk and the lawn because the aspens just decided it's time. So this weekend we'll be, picking those up, but that's a 3-week process. And then the lilacs will go, oh yeah, now it's our time. So, it's always a challenge for people, but I think people are trying to do a good job, and hopefully we can just help them along. And that's all I have for this evening, unless you have any questions. Thank you.
Right, T. Just put you on the hot spot to give a speech.
Oh, I know. Alright, well, I don't have a whole lot for you guys tonight, so I'll try to keep this short and sweet. But reports for what we've managed to do over the past month. We've upgraded the firmware for all of the police officers' body cam system. Whether or not that was a good thing, we're still trying to figure out as we've been chasing bugs. We became aware after a power failure that the backup generator had not been tested and it failed. So with Viero, we got that up and running, and they're maintaining it and they're watching it, and it's up and functioning again. We've assumed the role of the public information officer, and we've been managing the city website and the Facebook account or web pages and things along those lines. Everyone had access to them, and it just wasn't real secure. So we're figuring out how to mitigate control over each page and who has that, and well, hopefully that comes soon. Brandon and Jim won the cup. It's the CGAIT, or Colorado Government Association of Information Technology Cup for Most Improved Data Center a couple weeks ago. And the reason they won it was because of the improvements made with the data center here in Monte Vista. So they're proud of that one. They're showing it off to everyone. I'm sure you'll hear about it at some point. And then, like usual, we've patched computers, brought them up to the latest firmware, made sure their security patches were up to date, and all the other little things, chasing bugs here and there, maintaining computers, fixing them. But other than that, that's about all, unless you guys have questions.
I do not. You guys are doing a good job. I appreciate it.
Well, it's definitely appreciated, and we have a lot more to come, like sound system, new microphones, things along those lines.
Thank you. Tell them congratulations on their couple. It's a big thing.
It is a big cup. I believe you all will be seeing that
Right?
very soon. And if I could just clarify one thing on the generator. So the generator does work. And what happened in that case, if you go out and look right behind City Hall where the generator hut is, there's 3 transformers there. And so it's 3-phase, and one of the transformers hiccuped, and Excel, checked it and it looked okay. But it wasn't so okay. I mean, it looked fine, and then it wasn't. And of course, they came back the next day, and the generator had been humming along for about 12 hours at that point. And so then they could actually see that transformer had failed. So they were able to get another one there, but we discovered a few additional issues like the ventilation of that. And we have a cooperative agreement with Fiero where they're actually the maintenance of the generator itself and the generator building is on their hook. So their reps were by here, I think it was Tuesday, and we talked about the ventilation issue. So they actually have to bring a crew out of Pueblo to come up and work on that. But yeah, I mean, it ran, but it was running pretty hot. And it's a huge generator. It runs the building easily, but yeah, it gets kind of warm in there. So they'll be working on that. Not as big of an issue in the winter, but still, we're working towards to have that, making sure it works so that we can have emergency or incident command center here.
Very good. Does the council have anything? Any committee reports?
No, but I did want to maybe propose an event in the future for Cinco de Mayo. So just to give that a thought, and if we can find the wants to come.
That's a great idea. We used to do those events, even at the school system, they would have big Cinco de Mayo events, but I think it would be fun to do a community one. Put me on that committee.
Good idea.
Gary, you have anything?
A lot to go over, but I'm just going to take time for one thing. Drove the big, we call it the prison bus, with the Monte Vista High School marching band out to the regional competition in Colorado Springs. And we actually made it out there and back. We had some challenges with that, but up against the 1A schools in the entire region, Monte Vista took first place.
How many of you guys are in band?
Yeah. Congratulations. Brought home a trophy that's,
That was the state championship, right?
Well, no, this is regional. Now they qualify for state. I'm not sure when that's coming up.
It's on the 29th.
Oh, this month? Oh, okay.
Where's it at?
It's at Pueblo.
Is it?
So not to put any pressure on you, the last time Monte Vista State Band won the state championship, my daughter was a freshman and my son is a senior. My son is 25. It's been a long time. I was a 4-year state championship man, so we expect to see a flag back or a banner back up, okay?
They actually would have won, whatever it was last year, it was 2 years back, but they changed the rules on you guys at the last minute, and it only affected us. Not everybody. Anyhow, I won't get into all that. But on the way back, and I do have to add this little touch, the community came together with a horn honking parade led by a couple of the local squad cars. It was around midnight, so you may have missed it. We were a little late getting back, but it was phenomenal. It was just from the co-op all the way up through to the high school parking lot. And thank you guys for your good work and your patience with our transportation issues. But we got you there and got you back, and congratulations again. That was phenomenal performance against some tough competition. Honestly, there were some very good performances out there, and you guys took the top prize. Congratulations.
If you guys have that on your cell phone, if you videoed that with your phones, put it on the community awareness site so that everyone can see it. You need to pat yourselves on the back. That's a big accomplishment.
Thank you.
And state is next. I believe. I believe.
I actually have a video of my daughter when she was, her junior and senior year, she was drum major. You know the kids that are here. So she actually did a little rally. You guys might do something like this. It really got him pumped up before state. He did not win. We came really close. But she did the whole, I believe, we will win kind of thing. The whole chant with the whole band. I actually have it somewhere on my phone. But,
wow.
You know, positive thinking. You guys can do it.
Yeah. Good for you guys.
Oh, damn.
Congratulations.
It's all they did.
Kathy, do you have anything?
Huh?
Kathy, too, do you have anything?
No, sir, not this evening.
We got a lot of events going on, so be sure and participate in them, keep an eye on them. We'll keep you guys in our thoughts. Talking about community again, help your neighbors out. It's very important that we do this to take care of our neighbors. It's our community. We are one family. So I would appreciate it. Also, I want to put out there, this Saturday is the poker tournament for the Kids Connection.
And the mayor has been challenged.
And the mayor has been challenged. Almost mayor and myself are playing against each other, and whoever else is playing, if they knock one of us out of the game before it's all finished, they get an extra prize. But I was going in it for fun. I'm gonna have to be serious.
I got you. You're in trouble.
It's a huge amount of fun. So if you guys like playing Texas Hold'em, it's a lot of fun, and it goes to a really good cause because they take out what it costs them for the meal at the Three Guys, and then the rest of it goes to Kids Connection. So it's money well spent.
And time well spent, and a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. It's a hoot, so.
World Series of Poker's on ESPN right now, Mayor, so you might want to.
It won't do it.
Alex was telling me that he used to be a professional poker player, so he's going to do like an intro here.
And I think he was a
And he's
dealer
going to
too.
teach some of his little tricks of the trade.
It's interesting to watch him.
Is it?
Yeah, last year he showed us a bunch of stuff, and it was really interesting.
Well, you will have to lease your time because I am signed up, but unfortunately I'm also going to be in somewhere, Bayfield, with the volleyball team. So you're going to be, you probably win now.
He won't. I'm playing against him.
You won't.
I win the prize.
Anyhow, it is a good cause.
So the mayor challenge happened earlier this year too, just throw this out there, when they had the, Burris and Sons have the, the Spring in the Valley or something like that. I got called out to ride a bull. I'm older and wiser, and my life was threatened, so I just ponied up some money for the kids.
Shoulder surgery, so you're like, yeah, riding a bull.
Real quick question for Forrest. I know we're getting ready to go into executive session. We want to close the meeting prior and go into executive session, and then so that folks, they don't have to sit here and wait till we're done.
Well, you'd read to go into executive session, and we'd go into executive session. Just, you know, if you're contemplating action after the executive session, you just need to disclose that. If people want to sit around, we'll go into the executive conference room to do the session. So you just read the, motion to go to executive session item. You need a motion, all that normal stuff.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because we might have that after the meeting tonight, or we can take that on to the next one, correct?
That's up to you all, Mayor. I mean, if you want to take it, you don't have to take, if you announce that you're going to take action after the executive session, you don't have to, but it is notice to the public that you might.
Okay. So, we need a motion to go into executive session.
I move that we go into executive session for the purpose of determining positions related to matters that may be subject to the negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6-402-4E.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we go into executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators under CRS section 24-6-4024E. Is there any more discussion? Aaron?
Counselor Segala?
Aye.
Counselor Ellsworth? Aye. Counselor Johnson?
Right.
Counselor Lorenz?
Aye.
Mayor Becker?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Read this to go into executive, when we get in there, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So there might be a decision made this evening, but,
But it doesn't have to be, it's just that you may take action afterwards.
yeah, we can take action in the later meeting, just so you know. So,
Can we take 5?
yeah, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess.
So, you guys keep doing this.